Recording in progress.
Actually, give me a moment.
Okay,
Wait,
yeah,
stop.
it is
Wait,
about
one moment.
6:00.
For some reason, I don't see myself. Sorry. No, wrong button. Video setting. Wrong.
Conflict tonight.
Why? Oh, oh yeah, that totally works. Oh, sorry, that might help. So you get out of your hand. I was like, it's so hard.
Well done.
Here, send me a picture of the guest Wi-Fi, or was that? Yes. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are we set? We are set. All right, welcome to Tuesday meeting, September 19th, 2023. It is about 6 p.m. Start with the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
President Lorraine,
Here.
Vice President Clute, here. Commissioner Net,
Here.
Commissioner Peterson,
Here.
Commissioner Sweet, here.
All right, modifications, additions, and changes to the agenda. I have none. All right. Public comment. We have anybody online who wants to comment?
I do not have anyone online.
All right. Hearing none, how about some discussion, determine date for further discussing the city electrical system upgrade.
So everybody's phones and calendars come out. We need to do a workshop and talk about the electrical project with the city. The city came in, they made their pitch, slightly different than we've heard before, but interesting nonetheless. I don't know that it shed a lot of light on what the benefits for the city or for the port are and what other options we may be able to entertain. I've seen that project in a couple different variations, one of which cost more around $1 million and got us 14 megawatts of power. We didn't hear anything about that particular version of that. So what I want to do is get BKI, which is the electrical engineers that designed the project, and the different versions of that project in front of the commission. We need a solid hour to 90 minutes to sit and talk about that. We're also facing kind of a tough schedule with conferences. I think I've talked to each one of you that it's conference season. I apologize. I know we're running you guys ragged. I promise it slows down after this. I've looked at sort of at the end of October. We could also stack it in front of another meeting. There's kind of different ways to do it. 24th is what, of October? Yeah. Was sort of what Carrie Ann, when she looked through schedules, saw as might be doable. Also, this room and its availability becomes something that she has to sort through as well. But I want to get a date put together. I know it's something you guys want to do. I know it's going to be necessary for us to fully understand that project and all our options that are available to us. Does the 24th work for everyone? No one? On time of day? Do we want to do it in person? We could do it via Zoom if we wanted to.
And it's probably better as far as absorbing the info.
I agree.
I'm sorry, how long do we think it will take?
I would like 90 minutes. I would probably settle for an hour, but I think, I don't know, the more time I spend with you guys ask really good questions. And having those engineers in the room, you're gonna get really good answers, which you're probably gonna create additional good questions. I see it being 90 minutes of a lot, so, but good and necessary.
Good with October 24th.
24 seems to work for me, just Tuesday.
I'd like to discuss, maybe going under contract with the city before doing anything. Would that be part of that discussion? If you want to mention that before, into an agreement?
Into an agreement, so we've always asked if the agreement with the city come before we got too far down this path of what we were gonna choose to do. With that being said, the previous commission maybe had a slight, careful here. They had more time to review this project than you guys have had. So as much as I want an agreement in place that sort of guides this, I still want you guys to have the option to say, yeah, no, it's just not something we're interested in spending that $2.4 million on.
I'm thinking on a grander scale than just this project, like a development or infrastructure agreement.
So I don't have a meeting put in place yet with the city and us. We put it out to Jordan to do the same thing I did with you guys at the last meeting. It didn't make his agenda. It's gonna make the next agenda. I think once we have that meeting between these two, then yes, we can probably get an agreement put in place once you guys have had an opportunity to discuss where the overlap is. But it'd be nice to get you guys in the room talking first before me and Jordan sit down and see exactly what that agreement is gonna be made up of. But yes,
Okay,
I
I know
think you're
for a
probably
fact
right.
you don't need design. You don't, that can all be afterwards. So,
Yeah.
and that's only in support of this, and that's a discussion that I'd like to open up.
I guess since we're kind of on it, like, when you say have an agreement with the city, like, what are you thinking?
And I'm gonna do public records requests with different boards to see how they've done it and read different development agreements, but that is a typical agreement document whenever you're working with even with, I say clients, but with other people, but between city and ports that are usually drafted before any big projects are taken.
And it can lock us in on things that may change with the city, right? So if we were to be doing a project and then a development code were to change while we were 1 year into a 4-year project, then it would do things like lock us in on that development code, so we didn't have to come back to the city, restart project. So in general, there's a number of different places that can overlap, but it's sort of getting on the same page with the city and agreeing like, this is what we see going forward. And as a project moves forward or an idea moves forward, we won't want to have to keep coming back and revisiting whatever sort of changed. So these agreements can lock things in place. The one that we had with the city around power was that this was signed, I think, in 2012, that they were gonna provide adequate power to the business park. Pretty loose term, adequate power, right? So I think we would create one that was better and stronger and maybe individualized per project. The one that we had worked out with Jordan, we hadn't completely got the language dialed in, but me and him were sort of negotiating on how much power they would provide to us. And they wanted to give us an up to number, we'll provide up to, and we slowed down a little bit there because I was never comfortable with up to being in that agreement. Up to can be 1 megawatts, right?
I guess what I'm trying to understand is like, why would we want to or need to get into an agreement with the city over this before we speak to the developers?
I think it's important to look at the bigger picture than just what they're trying to do right now. There are things that we want to do and further development.
Yeah. That's kind of tied into our general direction, and I think kind of our general direction that was proposed that drove a lot of the initial design of where we're headed and how much money was based on high power use. Was an entity that's gonna use 10 megawatts or something like that, and if we're talking about a slower growth of companies that are not going to use that, consume that kind of power, then we're talking about really a different system as far as or the development of city are, and we need to kind of be on the same page of where we're headed and how much money that means the port puts out towards that.
And in the end, we're both clear on what is expected of each other and what we're getting out of it.
Right, I guess whenever you say an agreement with them, I'm hesitant of getting an agreement if we haven't even decided that we are comfortable with giving them money yet.
But that's part of the planning, so no, the money is.
I can see it going, honestly, I see both points of view here, I see what you're saying here as far as like, let's understand the project a little more fully before we go and sign sort of an agreement.
Yeah.
And I see you saying, hey, let's come together and have a common goal to work towards whatever it is that we are going to do, right? So you could do it either way.
In the
but
bigger
both-
scheme, you know,
Okay.
spending money, I don't think is a big issue. It's, well, it is, I mean, we would need to learn more about it, but.
Yeah.
The larger scope is what I'm interested in. And instead of things just coming and falling on our plates, like, we've got this project, you wanna do this with this? Let's think it out,
Right.
plan it,
And
and maybe have stages, like this agreement is just for this stage, you know? And it's typical that, entities, I was looking at, city of Portland has 2 or 3 within 5 years. So depends on the scale. Something to discuss.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and we just kind of made our own point is that we do need to have a special meeting to,
Yes,
to discuss all of this, because it is a complicated issue. How much of it is putting in piping to prepare for growth, and how much of it is do we need to put in now? And, prepare ourselves so that we can, have a main line that's heavy enough that it can, allow for growth, so.
also interested in water. We all know what happened this past weekend. Infrastructure needs to be upgraded. Is that something that we need to work together on? I don't know yet. I mean, those are the types of things that if it's infrastructural, then maybe we, just look at bigger picture.
What about timing as far as when does our grant expire, have to be spent by, like, if we continue to delay it, are we gonna be forced to spend it anytime?
2.4 is June 2024.
Yeah.
June
So
2024.
less than a year
Yeah.
to spend it, so if we-
For that particular.
I'm not super worried about that,
Yeah.
there's always a million ways to spend money and very few ways to make it. So, spending money never seems to be a problem.
That's easy.
Well, but if we're trying to earmark it for this particular project, and we spend the next 6 months discussing it, we might not be able to. Is it supposed to be built before June 24th, or we
We
just
just
have
need
to
to spend it,
spend it?
right?
Does earmarking count as spending it?
It doesn't on that one, we have to spend it, we have to spend it. There are ways we can spend that money before the work is done. It's not something we like to do, but it can be done.
I can think of lots of ways I like.
It would have been nice to have that joint meeting with the city before going into the BKI meeting. I see the benefits of not too. I feel like we'll come to the plate a little bit more educated when we come to that meeting. The joint meetings now sitting with the city, they'll come up with what their agenda items are, we'll put it together, and it'll probably be another work session. I know we're running you guys through it right now, it's brutal, but we'll get through it.
It'd be helpful to get a recording of that meeting if we can.
Yeah.
Joint meeting.
So you mentioned October 24th though?
Yeah, so October 24th would be the meeting with BKI, it'll be 90 minutes, we'll bring the engineers in who designed this project, again, they designed it with the 2.4, they've also designed it in a couple different smaller chunks.
Okay.
And they'll be able to answer some of your questions, I know that some of you talked about potentially, well, what does it take for us to run power farther out towards the end of the point where the resort area is, and those are the types of questions that they would be able to answer. I don't know that they'll have an exact dollar figure for you, but we can send them back to the drawing board and say, so listen, this was sort of our priority when we were gonna put data centers in here. But now that we're thinking outside of the box and thinking about that property down there, then what does that look like? So I think
Is there a reason we wouldn't do it on our normal cadence of meetings?
I would, only because the pressure to spend the two, it's more the pressure of the city wants to know what we're doing, they're either in or we're either in or we're not. There's some of the pressure to, have shorter meetings for you guys, if I tack 90 minutes onto whatever is already a long meeting, and there's a lot of people that want to get in front of this commission right now. There just is, there's just a lot of people that want your attention, that haven't met you guys before. They've been working with the board for a long time, so meetings are kind of stacking up. I could do it. We could make it work. It would be probably a long meeting night, probably similar to what we did last week, at the previous meeting.
Right, I guess I was just wondering why we wouldn't do it on 17th, which would be our meeting, our second meeting. Because of that.
I feel like we're going to run into a lot of things and requests and things for you guys to consider from our vendors that are gonna come and present to us about PCT days, or present to us about, they're gonna have a lot of things that went well. They're gonna have a lot of things that they can do better, and they're probably gonna have some asks of us. So I think that'll take up a lot of that meeting.
I'm okay with the 24th, and I think like just hearing what they have to say and like seeing that line of the project has no harm. We're not making a decision, we're just kind of learning more.
And as always, if you can't make every meeting, you can't make every meeting. If you send me your questions, I'll make sure they get asked. We'll send you the recording. You guys have real lives, so if I can only get 3 at a meeting, I can only get 3 at a meeting. Like, so not everything has to be all 5 of you, although I appreciate the effort you guys put in. It's amazing.
24th is fine with me. 24th sounds like you're good too, because you're good.
Yes.
You're good too. All right.
So we'll start working on we'll start reaching out to BKI and getting that meeting put together on the 24th.
Cool.
Thank you.
All right,
BKI, they're the designers.
They're the engineers that designed that project, yes.
all right, moving on, consent agenda. Approval of minutes for the commission meeting from August 15, 2023 and September 5th, 2023. Ratification in the bills in the amount of $331,017.29. And approval of payroll for August 18th, 2023 in the amount of $39,964.54. September 5th, 2023 in the amount of $43,119.24. Yes. I should have been announced. And we'd like to entertain a motion.
I motion to approve the consent agenda. And second,
Oh, second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as stated. All those in favor? Aye, opposed? That's unanimously. Business action items, approval of recommendation for award of Cascade Lost Trail project. Brittany Bird.
Forgive me for a minute, but I have so many papers that I need to kind of right out in front of me. Okay. So. Report to you guys. In 2021, the Columbia River Gorge National Scenic Area approved the development of the Cascade Locks Trail System, created in partnership with the Board of Cascade Locks and Northwest Trail Alliance. The system will eventually consist of nearly 15 miles of new multi-use trails, supported new trailheads that will connect the existing network of gorge trails around Cascade Locks. The purpose of this project is to help meet the growing demand for mountain biking opportunities in the Pacific Northwest and provide for visitor-related economic development in the community of Cascade Locks. Later in 2021, with the support of Northwest Trail Alliance and Columbia Gorge Scenic Area, received a grant from Oregon Parks and Recreation Department to fund the construction of 6.3 miles of bike optimized new trail. Northwest Trail Alliance is currently constructing approximately 3 miles of the trail as a match for the grant. This RFP is to construct the balance of approximately 3.3 miles. We went out to RFP on August 9th. RFP closed on the 13th, I believe. Yep. And we received 2 proposals. Unfortunately, both of those proposals were over that awarded amount. So the decisions coming before the commission today is to provisionally select the bidder and to allow port contractors and staff to work with that bidder to amend the scope of work to fit within that grant outline.
Okay.
So currently it's about a $43,000 difference. of what was awarded and what we were, what was proposed in the lowest bid. Other option is reduce the amount of trail to be built pending Oregon Parks and Recreation approval, because that was the project that was proposed to them. Finding additional funding, seeing if Columbia Gorge Scenic Area can act in or kick anything in. Or seeing if Northwest Trail Alliance can take on additional construction of that trail. Any questions?
What's the name of the higher bidder of those two bids?
Ptarmigan Trails.
The other one.
Oh, sorry, the other one is
Single track.
single track.
Single
Thank
track.
you.
Okay.
I did not actually bring that one with me.
And it's only for mountain bikes?
This section of trail is a multi-use
Okay.
trail, so it's mountain biking and hiking.
Okay.
There's gonna be other sections of the trail that are also gonna be equestrian friendly, but I believe that this one specifically is built more towards mountain biking.
And
Gravel, not paved.
Correct. Yeah, in this very lengthy document,
yeah,
in the scope of work, it outlines exactly what they're doing.
and I'm trying to piece together the map. It looks like it's on 3 different pages.
Yeah, it's starting out at the Wyatt campground area, or the Wyatt service road.
I guess I'm just trying to
Yeah, I think the,
envision where and how it will come.
this first one, this first page of the maps shows the outline of the whole trail system, and it calls out specifically trail 6, 7, and 8.
Okay.
That's what's proposing to be constructed. And I think the ones past that are just more details of those sections.
Okay. Let's see that. Okay. So basically, it would connect over a coming 3 and wire. So it's page 30 for you, right?
Yeah, I like the phase 1 bid evaluation you guys did. Obviously, it seems the lower bidder kind of wins on the points in terms of industry experience and just the criteria that we're trying to fill. So I'm leaning towards Ptarmigan Trails, I guess.
So are we looking for decisions on, just the, contractor?
Yeah, we just need a motion to award the contract to Ptarmigan, and then that allows staff and contractors to move to our next problem, which is the gap in funding. Right,
Figure out
so-
where to cover that gap.
Right, so if we have to,
We need additional decisions if we wanna approve
Correct.
funding on our end.
ideally, Northwest Trail Alliance says we'll do a little more, but yeah, so you're not solving the funding gap problem right now, you're letting us move farther along in the process.
As we move forward,
Yeah.
there is a recommended motion. So
With, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I guess I have a couple. Yeah, so that's okay, guys, that's okay. I guess. With this, is it? Obviously both of them had the same RFP, is there a reason other than, I guess, just the numbers they came back with, that one was significantly higher, did they suggest that they would do something differently, is there?
So did you see the last, gotcha.
Like between the two,
I
there's one like,
understand.
oh, we'll make sure to go by this waterfall on this one launch, or was the trail already defined, or?
It's already defined, so very detailed.
So,
Yes.
Scope of work is very, very detailed, so it doesn't really give them a whole lot of flexibility in what the trail will look like. The difference is obviously the cost that they're proposing. Ptarmigan came in with a little bit lesser of a time frame to make that happen, and we do have some time frame of when we have to have this completed by. Project must be completed by February 28th, 2025, so we do have a pretty decent window. But with that, in the scenic area, there's only a certain time frame that you're allowed to use motorized tools.
Right.
So that's from July 16th to February 28th, so you can see where that section of time can kind of
Right.
get away pretty quickly if you only have that window where you can actually do work on the trail.
Right, yeah, because this
Just
area
notice.
is. I hike up in Kermit Creek a lot, and some of this area, you get into the wilderness up there.
Mhm.
So I guess then they're not allowed to use like certain tools, I know.
Mhm.
Okay.
One other thing I wanted to ask and just clarify for the record is that this is not like an actual port project, right? We're just the stewards of implementing it. So this is a Northwest Trail Alliance project and funding. We're just helping them implement it, right?
And,
Well,
Forest
No,
Service,
we,
County Road
the board's the one who really kicked this whole program off as far as starting the trail. We spent upwards of $100,000 in getting this process designed and really it's kind of it is kind of a port project, but it is one of the port projects is not really a port project that gets the port paid for anything, you know, we're not, you know, this is more a larger economic.
There's a lot
A
of
larger picture,
stakeholders.
how do you create economic development in an area that's tourist based? And the trail is a good one, was seen as a good way to do that, when you look at what happened in Oak Ridge, down in Oregon, down south of Eugene, Oak Ridge.
Ashland, Oregon's got a big mountain bike.
They've got, it's a big trail system there and a big part of their economy, so, you know. Yeah, we started this 15 years ago, probably, and been working on it, and then nothing happened for, you know, probably 6 years or so, where it just kind of sat, and finally all the powers that be, got their ducks in a row and had time, the Forest Service had time to work on it and all of that, so. Yes and no, it is really more, I would say more of a port project than it is a Northwest Trail Alliance project.
Project.
Once again, brought them into the picture and they loved the idea and stepped it up, so. It's great to find partners like that that will work with us on these type of things, that'll be great for our community.
Well, that's the one that tells everyone I talk to that if you love hiking and water sports, you should come out here. This is Mecca.
Yeah.
I'm more than happy to have this moving
And
forward.
that's kind of, and that's the whole portion, not just the whole deal with the parking lot and the bathrooms, that was all part of the trail program. So, you know, and all the grant funding that we got in, and once again, a lot of port money that we put into it that was. So it was nicely gifted to us from ARPA funds but, you know, this has been a project that's been, you know, 15 years in the works.
And how much funding were we given by for this project? Cause I'm finally looking at the pricing pages.
Yeah.
It's a lot of scrolling.
We were awarded $130,950.
Gotcha.
And
And
just at one
it's
second.
bid at 174.
And this will be a 20,
So what was the other one bid at? What was the other company bid at?
217, just like this.
That's even more.
It's on page 9 towards the bottom
Oh,
for
I
everybody.
scroll right past it there.
I had to have my multiple documents.
I was looking for like a little table or something to have
And
it.
and this is 20 plus miles, right, 23 miles, I think that's right. Yeah, so this is just the beginning phase of it, it'll be kind of like the. Kind of like what's been going on with our historic One River Highway Trail, it's been, you know, in the process for years and years and just keeps getting a little longer, so.
Love it, love it.
So if,
Do we get to name the trail?
You know, there was a conversation around that, and there was a lot of creative ideas tossed in there. I think that it's just called the Cascade Locks Trail System.
I was saying just this particular trail, it would be fun.
Well, I love naming things, so you know, all of it.
Love it.
do we have any more questions, if not, would somebody like to entertain a motion?
I mean, I know we're not supposed to interfere with how you would actually interact, or like speak with them and negotiate it, but other than saying, hey, we don't have that money, like what's our plan, like if they're,
I think, I'm sorry, I think Northwest Trail Alliance is going to be the easiest answer for us, is we're gonna come back and say, hey, listen, we came up 30 grand short, can you guys pull enough volunteers and effort together to close that gap? But they might be able to, after that, we'll have to go back to the drawing board a little bit.
And this is kind of a pivotal point that we can go off in several different directions. We can amend the scope of work so that we tighten up what we're spending. That has to be approved through Oregon Parks.
right,
We could ask Northwest Trail Alliance, there's a lot of other special interests groups out there for this.
trail keepers.
Right, so there's funding out there. It's just allowing us the time to go out and seek that and keep this project moving forward with some construction.
We can make the trail just 2 inches short, smaller.
Right.
Few less curves in the trail, you know.
Delete trail number 3 and 10,000 of, or trail number 6 and $10,000 of trail number 8, we're good.
And that just, this just lets us get to that point.
Right.
Start going, okay.
Then I'll make a motion to award the contract to Ptarmigan Trails LLC to construct phase 1 of the Cascade Lock Trail System and direct staff and port contractors to work with Ptarmigan to determine the work plan that can be accomplished with grant funds available for the project from Oregon Parks and Recreation and any other sources that may become available.
I'll second.
Yes.
Okay, we have a motion and a second,
Yes, I'll second.
to, award the, project to, Ptarmigan Trail Systems, and, then we'll, further discuss the scope of work, and, anybody have any more questions? All in favor?
Thank you for putting together the comparison analysis there. That was helpful.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? That's unanimously.
I want to take the opportunity to thank Brittany for all her hard work on this project. She's been with it for a long time, and thank you very much.
Hey, Brittany.
All right, number B, consider ordinance, amendment regarding alcohol use on port property.
So this was a conversation that the commission wanted to have, I think maybe 2 months ago. We got it on last month's agenda and sent Tommy back to sort of take a look at it. The current Port of Cascade ordinance states the following regulation in regards to alcohol use. It says 5.7 alcohol. No person shall possess open containers of alcohol anywhere on port property except to transport the alcohol to or from moored boats or is allowed by special permit from the port. Under guidance of the port attorney, the following amendment to the language is being submitted to the commission for review. It would be to amend ordinance number 21-1, section 5.7. And hereby replaces the previous ordinance in its entirety. And simply states alcoholic beverages means any liquid or solid containing more than 1/2 ounce of, or 1/2 of 1% alcohol by volume and capable of being consumed by a human. No person shall possess and consume alcoholic beverages in a glass container with marine park under other recreational areas and allowed, unless allowed by special permit issued by the port. So really when Tommy went back and looked at this, we talked quite a bit here about public intoxication and including that in our ordinance going forward. And once you dig into Oregon state laws around public intoxication, you're really handcuffed about making any laws regarding that. We just can't make public intoxication illegal or in our ordinances. The city currently, Tommy dug into city ordinance or laws, and the city laws generally says that you can't create a disturbance while consuming alcohol.
Right.
So really what this does is allows people to have alcohol in the park, but on glass bottles. And then we defer to what the city law is, which is you can't create disturbances while consuming alcohol. If someone were to be doing that, they'd be breaking a city law. And so that's going to override our laws anyway. So it's a pretty small change. The repercussions of it can be fairly large and are worth discussing. I've taken some calls from some citizens today. Some of the concerns that came up are places in the park that are more dangerous than others. I think that we can say most of the area around locks is fairly dangerous. We can also say that the island has presented some challenges. So there was concerns that maybe we make it okay in some places and not in others. There was some discussion about things like kegs. We do now go to OLCC laws because it's sort of an all or nothing thing. You either say no or yes. I think there's some nuances when me and Tommy talk that based on this discussion, we can go back and sort of me and him can work through some of those nuances. But OLCC allows you to have a keg as long as someone else isn't pumping it or you're not selling it. So that is something we could very likely see on like the 4th of July. Somebody could bring a keg down there. These are things that I think we should discuss amongst us and maybe guide our decision on certain places that we put alcohol, maybe send me and Tommy back to the drawing board a little bit on something that's slightly broader. But like I said, the public intoxication thing is a little bit handcuffed. And then also the size of containers, Tommy's not sure if there's enough room in the law to lock in on what you can and can't do.
Big key I see is enforcement. I mean, you know, we really have no means to enforce it. And we can't just outlaw it and then with no means to enforce it. It's the same thing, kind of like it happens with the gun laws. You know, it's kind of like it's a very small percentage of the people that cause the problem, and those people are going to violate the laws anyway. So I don't see that we've had a major problem with you know, people abusing alcohol down there, and if we put it on the books and then don't enforce it, what's the difference? You know, the deputy sheriff isn't going to come down and enforce a rule that we put in unless it rises to the level of somebody is publicly intoxicated and creating a nuisance or something like that, and then their laws are going to apply. And you know, so I don't really see one way or the other that any rules that we have are first of all going to do anything, and secondly are actually going to be to our benefit.
We did find an old, in this, I'm sorry you guys don't have a copy of it, I was just made aware of it late in the day by a citizen and found the policy. We have a policy from 2012 that we put together with Cascade Locks Against Drugs Coalition, which it no longer exists. And the Hood River County Commission on Children and Families. And really what it centers around is having family-friendly events within Marine Park. So having things like movies in the park and saying that this is a drug and alcohol-free event. I don't think that limits us from, I don't think us being a dry park limits our ability to have events that we say, you know, alcohol and drugs are not welcome at this event. This is a child's event. This is an alcohol-free event, right? Does it keep somebody from sitting way back away from the event, having a beer and cheating into it? No, probably not. It probably doesn't affect that. They probably still get away with that if they want to. But if we choose to hold events for families that are specifically alcohol-free, or that we ask that it not be present there, I think we still are within the rights of the court to say, hey, listen, this is a special event. In this special event, we don't allow alcohol. You're more than welcome to do it in other places in the park, just not right here in front of the movie screen with the kids. So that's a policy that we did have in place, but it really was focused on making that movies in the park a family event. That was really the only thing that I could find. I heard that Dare had come up with something, but I think it's that clad that we talked about. So that's just more information I didn't have until today. So make sure you guys are aware of it.
Yeah. I guess I have two questions. First one would be, if we still say unless allowed by a special permit issued by the court, what would that entail? Just like allowing people to have a bottle of champagne?
So that's the thing is once you guys sort of make this decision, it will undoubtedly change sort of policy within the port, right? Now you currently have to, in order to, nobody can have alcohol in the port unless you get a permit for a special event. So it does make it a slippery. It makes it tougher to navigate this point. Like you look at something like PCT days. Now he's going to rope off his entire area, have a beer garden, and because he is leasing that spot or renting that spot from or leasing that spot, he can sort of determine where alcohol is allowed in or not in that spot. But now you do have people sort of walking around the outside area. Not that we didn't see that during PCT days already, it was widespread. But now they're not breaking an ordinance. Again, it comes back a little bit to enforcement. It's like, well, we weren't enforcing it anyway. But you look at something like
I mean, we were enforcing it as alcohol monitors.
Yes,
No
oh, very
outside
much so,
drinks
sorry, yes,
inside the event, so, you know.
putting it on.
Yeah, and
Yes,
you know, if we're gonna go this route, then we should probably, find volunteers in the community that wanna don a jersey and walk around in the park with their local ordinance enforcement jacket. If they feel so seriously about it, that they want to be part of this solution.
We have things that pop up like, sort of road weddings. Like all of a sudden they just descend on the park, they haven't rented the spot, they haven't leased the spot. They go out, they get married real quick on the wedding space. If they're big enough, we usually kind of interrupt it and say, hey, listen, there's gotta be a permit here, in days. But then all of a sudden they go back out by the seawall or somewhere and they decide to have a makeshift reception. Out comes the kegs or the bottles of champagne. Once again, they're now not really breaking rules. What's the difference between a party and an
Well,
actual
all champagne
permit?
is flat, so they would be.
Either fair. So if you guys change this ordinance, we will have to go back to our permitting process and work through it and figure out how we now navigate it.
Right.
Not things that we can't overcome, not things that we won't, but it will change the way we do things now. All things we're willing to take on, but you take like Bridge of the Gods run. They cross over there and there's a beer waiting for him and there's a beer garden, but he doesn't really have that area sectioned off. It's just everything on the island allows beers. Well, now I can show up with a 6-pack of my own and hang out and not really be breaking rules unless he sort of creates a beer garden area for it and says, you know, but again, so it's just different. It's just different. And it's not like it's radically different. This went into place in 2021. I've heard that it did curtail some parties that got a little bit loud, people coming into the park and just throwing a bigger shindig than they were expecting, but that's not something that we see a lot of. It really does sort of rest on you guys on what do you want the average experience to be of a person who comes to Cascade Locks and spends some time in the park. And if you see,
Right.
yeah, I think it's fair to say that an adult can enjoy an adult beverage and act like an adult, then we're fine.
I think one of our main concerns as a board is the risk of what happens when someone's drinking and goes into the water.
Sure.
What happens? You know, are we responsible for that? If we are, STAO is going to cover. It's those incidents that happen that scare me more than the average everything.
Yeah, I agree.
Even like one incident in 5 years could be
Oh, and
detrimental, you know,
so
so-
they're required to, so if it's, Jeanette, $1 million?
Yeah, the difference is that a permitted event is insured, liquor liability, $1 million insurance policy being in the court, additionally insured, so if something happens, if our property gets damaged, things like that, like, it's covered. That's the only.
Our insurance, we've reached out to them, it will not go up if we were to, but I think it does increase the risk of those, although the most recent event, well, not the most recent event, but the most recent event where we had someone who was intoxicated and got in trouble in the water, they were at a permitted event, right? So if people are gonna drink and make bad choices, it doesn't necessarily matter if they have a permit or they don't have a permit, it's just sort of.
Yeah.
individual.
For unpermitted stuff, I think better signage, updated signage would reduce our liability a bit, you know.
More swimming at, like, no jumping off the bridge, you know, swim at your own risk, stuff like
Dangerous-
that, or no
Danger
dangerous
of
currents.
consumption of drinking next to a unfenced area or something like that, you know.
Just more signs to decrease our liability and like increase people's awareness.
That, I mean, that's all great, but what happens when it does happen? Like who, you know,
I mean, that's,
Well,
that,
play out the end.
was the court response, I mean, I don't think drinking was involved, but the horrible accident that happened, did anything come down on the court from that?
I know, but it could, I mean, at any point in time, someone can say, hey, the
The
board
signs
is liable
signs
for
were
this.
posted and the people involved do pay attention to the signs, unfortunately.
Right.
At any point in time, someone that's on, anytime we can be pointed at and said, hey, you guys are liable for this.
Right,
And then it's up to sort of our attorneys, and right now Tommy is comfortable with this. I think that there is always room for improved signage, especially around swimming, right? With the accident that we just had and with the one I just talked to you about, I think there's always opportunity to improve our signage, especially around the locks itself.
or or we just don't change anything and then people just don't follow it anyway and it's never enforced.
No,
Yeah.
I'm 100% sure, I think you have to
Just,
ask questions, you know, you have to think it through and.
I guess,
Yeah.
I have a question, the second question that I was thinking of, is right now, like basically like a patchwork, like. We allow it here if there's a permit, here there's a permit, but if we do this. Is it just like a free for all, like what about the kids park, what about the museum, what about?
This is blanket and something, and I think for worth further discussion, right?
Right,
Like, do we want it around the playground? Because right now this is blanket.
right,
So, we want it around the playground. Do we want it out at the island? Do we now want to get into a patchwork place where it's allowed and where it's not allowed? Or if right now, it's not allowed anywhere in Marine Park, and you have people who are camped out there in our campground for sometimes 7 or 8 days. Are
That's
they allowed to have it? Like,
that's something down the road that you plan for, make signage and create more sub-ordinances on that, perhaps, you know.
Yeah, we have time to make those changes.
But I think it's healthy to actually take a look at it and update it to make our park flexible, to make it an enjoyable experience. The city and the Port of Hood River has demonstrated how it can work. And I think we can work within legal grounds to do it similarly, so.
Yeah, I think once again, I think some of these rules, as much as they're well intended, and I understand the reason that they were made. Enforcement is gonna be an issue when you say you can't consume anything in a glass bottle. You know, you ever try champagne out of aluminum or, you know, I mean, it's just, and is anybody gonna actually observe that and say, oh, so I can drink that alcoholic beverage if it's aluminum or plastic? So if I get wine, I gotta get it in a plastic bottle or cardboard or, you know, like people are going to observe these rules anyway. And it's kind of, we're splitting hairs and what do? Catch them? You say, you gotta pour that out, it's in a glass bottle. You know, and it needed to be in cardboard.
right,
Pour it into a paper cup.
right. And I think I think
I need to take that from you.
I think so, this point here that I was like, we can include signage, like there's a lot of little small, like the little like. Huts that we have down there, we can easily put signage, it's like no glass,
Yeah.
Right,
that's super simple.
And you go to the local convenience stores, most of the things they sell are in aluminum cans, they're not glass, so.
Right,
It's,
right,
I don't think, it's just more, it's nice to have language in there about glass. Just for the safety aspect and a violation aspect where you can tell them to stop, you know, so.
yeah, my thing for the glass is more safety, like undoubtedly someone's gonna drop it, whether they're intoxicated or
And
not,
they-
someone's gonna drop it at some point, and then we have glass broken, and then someone might actually step on it.
Right.
Or on a tire or something like that.
so are we ready to, am I hearing that we're ready to ignore this or
We are.
or we're ready to go ahead and vote?
We don't need to vote on anything, we have enough sort of, unless there's anything you want me to go back with Tommy with around specific areas. Or if you want more discussion around whether we can limit the size of containers or things like that. If not, then what we'll do is take this language, put together an actual ordinance. And then we have to go through, you guys have to go through a process with the board, this has to be posted in the newspaper, the ordinance has to be read twice before any action can be taken on it. So this was just a little bit further discussion now that Tommy's made it a little bit farther down the path.
Right.
If we want to keep continuing down the path without any additional work done by Tommy, we can take this back, post the ordinance, you guys will have an opportunity to vote on it at that time. If we want more work done or more study done on it from Tommy's point of view, what else could we do? Could we limit kegs, those types of stuff? Then we can do that as well. Ordinance changing doesn't happen quickly.
Right,
Right, as we're moving into the shoulder season, it's kind of gonna be an issue for the next several months anyway. So.
I'm comfortable with it, what I would be interested in, obviously, another meeting. Would just be to understand if we were to put up more signage, what signage would we put up, no glass in certain places, where would they go? And how would we kind of put those in place? Because right now, this is just like, hey, cool, you guys are good.
Yep.
But obviously, there's a lot of things that we're talking about it, but.
Plan.
There's more planning down the road, but I don't think you can solve it in one meeting. This is just getting the ball rolling
Right.
to where we have a little bit more of a flexible ordinance,
Right,
you know.
Yeah.
Because before 2021, we would be in this case scenario. You know, so.
Sounds good. Okay, so I guess for the time being, we'll just kind of table this item and, be further.
We'll keep moving forward.
Okay. Commissioner comments?
Start on Pam's end this time.
Start with Pam, work this way.
Okay, I'd like to. I just took a bite as soon as you put that, sorry. My snacks here. I went to the Port of Calma and enjoyed everything about it. They are fantastic. They were fantastic to us that day. There are so many things that I want to share with you, but I don't want to change Rod's experience. So hopefully we can come together after that and share our experiences, because I'd like to hear what you got, you know, outside of what I got. But one thing I will say is Mark is one of the most humble human beings I've ever met. He knows a lot of things, he has a lot of experience, and he was happy to share it with us. And he answered all of my questions, no matter how elementary they may have been, and was happy to share with it. So that's all I had. Thank you for putting that together. Thank you, Carrie Ann and Brittany, for coming. And thank for all of you guys for what you do, and you guys too. Glad to hear.
Awesome. I had the pleasure to go out to Port of Morrow, in Boardman, Oregon, which I didn't know too much about before I went. But I didn't realize how big of a agricultural and transportation hub it is. It's a relatively small area, but they have tons of agriculture out there. They have this really cool sage center that's out there. It's an agricultural museum. And you kind of look at the history and the crops and what creates jobs in the area. And, you know, just the future development and how the port gets involved. And their port is actually doing a lot. They're actually building tons of apartment housing out there for the workforces. You're starting to see, you know, restaurants and pubs going up. They have a nice 3-mile bike path that goes along the waterfront, and they're on a little marina just like ours. One interesting thing was they also have a disc golf course that looked like it was pretty well used, and an RV park, and then also outdoor community fitness equipment. So you could just kind of work out on the river and stuff. It's actually a really nice area. They grow a lot of potatoes out there. And yeah, it's a big sky country out there. So there's kind of nice to see the sunset out there recently.
Nice.
Did you make it out to Mitchell Point on September 9th?
That was 2 months ago. Oh, Doc.
Oh, wasn't there,
Oh, yeah, that would be, no,
Walkthrough.
I didn't make it that morning, but Carrie, I think you
Carrie
did.
did.
Maybe you can speak
How
to
was
that.
We rode our bikes down, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I went there on Sunday and the trail was closed. I couldn't get to it. That's weird.
sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
From Viento.
It's fine.
I started at Starvation.
And rode to Viento and it was closed.
I went to Viento, past it, and then they had,
Oh, yeah, it's only a mile and a half trail that opened. There's
Yeah.
still 0.7 miles that they have to connect from that trail close to,
just shows my ignorance.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought the tunnel was open. I was so
No.
excited to get there.
and then because once the tunnel opens, that 0.7 miles will be unfinished until
Yeah.
they get more.
It's at least another.
Okay.
The tunnel might open in June.
Their gap was a little bit bigger.
Okay, so I was, okay,
I'm sorry, didn't mean to take over. but
I
yeah,
know,
just
sorry,
the-
me too.
I can't think of anything else other than, yeah, I think we're starting to enter holiday season, so I think it'd be kind of fun for the commission to think about, you know, what can we do a little differently this year as a community and kind of make it more festive. We're kind of out of the pandemic now, so people want to be more social, so I think that's something we should keep on our radar.
Well, and it's an economic development, goal. Janetta had a really cool idea she brought to me a couple months ago about possibly doing like one of those cool Christmas drive-through things down at the port. Where they have all the lights set up and people in their cars can drive through and see all the cool Christmas lights. If we maybe can find a company that would be willing to partner with us at some point, maybe not this holiday season, but a future one.
I would love, I don't have to interrupt you, I would love for us to figure that out. They do the drive around the track, in Portland.
Mhm.
They charge $60 a carload.
Holy.
I met some vendors at League of Oregon Cities when I was on city council that will come in, set up, store during the off season and reset it up the next season. I could see us being quite a draw. I mean, if you're willing to drive around a racetrack in a circle, imagine driving through Marine Park or walking out on the island and having it all lit up.
Mhm.
Our biggest thing, I think, would be the storage of those items.
And the weather too, if it's a walking thing.
It could be a little unusual weather, but I for a long time thought that that would be a huge opportunity for us to get people out here during the Christmas season. And I think that we would see it spread down the downtown corridor. I think once we started seeing traffic into the park, people would be like, oh, we gotta feed those people. We need to be
Yes.
festive, right? We turn.
Get some like hot cocoa trucks out. and
We're
stuff.
not, we won't be Leavenworth, but we'll be well on our way.
I mean,
We
what-
could have a Christmas destination here.
One
I love it.
one of the traditional events they would have, I think the city would have Santa go to Bridgeside and they'd have a little visit Santa type
If
thing.
it's legal.
Caroling, but I think we could use the Port Pavilion for something events, like in addition to what they did last year.
Like a Christmas.
Casino
market.
night, a fundraiser for the local schools was a nice event that they had there, so, you know.
Christmas market would be really.
I'm kind of focusing more on like holiday events at the pavilion, you know, when.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Sure.
saying, a Christmas market would be super cool too, so people can go buy locally made Christmas presents.
Yeah.
Right. And
I walked the lines last year and I think it's festive to get bundled up as much as you can and make a walk. I mean, it's,
And have food trucks that sell hot cocoa and.
yeah,
they do it at the Oregon Zoo and you walk, you don't drive through it.
Yeah.
So.
We just get about 30 more inches of rain a year than Portland, so.
That's it.
I-
I like it.
We totally sidetracked you, I apologize.
That was one of the open discussion format for everybody, so I don't have anything else to say.
Cool.
I think we should definitely focus on that though, like.
Yeah.
Figure stuff out, like
Yeah.
if we have room in the budget for it, maybe not this year, but we can build it in for next year somehow.
It supports the idea dramatically that Marine Park needs to find a way to pay for itself. But events is the way that we've always sort of focused on that. We need to improve the way that we do events. We need to limit our costs on events. An event like that runs 30 days or 40 days, if you start right after Thanksgiving, is one of those things that I've looked at and been like, all right, that's a big shoulder season thing where it could generate some income. And you could do the same sort of thing where you show a Cascade Lights license, you get to come for free, right? So there's lots of ways that we can do it and keep it open to the public, but
Can we like assign somebody in the port, like, can you have somebody help work up some idea, like actual proposal options that we can start looking at, like?
it would be,
I mean, it's all talk right now, but.
it would be for the next budget season, but yes. for
Really start putting
100%.
some action into it, because
If that's-
talking's great, but I wanna see some actual numbers and proposals and ideas, like.
Is that a general consensus that that's something we want to explore?
Yes.
Great, yes, we can.
Sweet. Bring some fun to the city.
Boo.
As far as the stuff that I just wanted to bring up, I'm looking forward to next Wednesday and the SEAO training that we have in Salem.
Oh, yes.
We all do have that. I was actually very curious, Brittany, if, I think it just started today, but the Canine Forensic Foundation,
So cool.
is there any, like, yeah.
Um,
What happened?
So we started the dogs about 7:30 this morning. The team has it all mapped out to do sections. They work the dogs for about 20 minutes and then give them a break so that, you know, it's a lot of mental work for them, so they don't get overstimulated. They go and take a break, get a snack, and then get back out into the field. So they're kind of just systematically going through the park.
Right.
So today they did from Sacagawea Circle to the playground area, and then they went back to about house 3.
Oh, wow.
The dogs did alert to a couple areas. At this point, don't know what exactly that those findings are, so it's just areas that they're interested in. They'll put together a full report at the end of this and share that with us, but exciting. It was really cool to get out there and watch them work and see what their call signs are to
Right.
what was interesting to them. one of the handlers made the comment that maybe the dogs were gonna be bored sniffing, just because it's so much lawn space and
Right.
not a whole lot of like really interesting areas, but, yeah, it was really interesting to, yeah. to watch
There's
them.
a bunch of what German shepherds or
A whole mix of things, actually. There's a long-haired border collie, a short-haired border collie, a lab, and a cocker spaniel. Cocker spaniel.
Cocker spaniel.
That,
Wow.
nice, that, I know, all their names, I pet all the dogs, it's wonderful. Best day of work ever.
2 more days of it too, right?
Yes.
And just because we're in a public meeting, sort of a reach out to the public to let the dogs do their work.
Yes.
That's why we've been a little bit quiet about it, is everybody loves dogs and, yeah, this could turn into a petting line for animals.
Yeah, right.
If you see the dogs out there doing their work, please let them continue.
Right, and was this, I read about it, but I guess like what impact if they do have, you called them, interesting areas?
sacred sites.
Areas of interest.
Areas of interest, yeah, what does that mean? What impact does that have?
So that could be historical remains of some sort.
Mhm.
And I talked with Roy, who's a tribal liaison and archaeologist for ODOT. He was actually on site with me today. And I asked him that specific question, like, what is our call to action? What's our responsibility to the treaty tribes on this? And he said, the big takeaway is that they never want burial remains to be disturbed.
Right.
So for just future planning and development of the park, to just don't touch those areas.
Okay.
And I think that's gonna be very simple to achieve, but. Unless, you know, they find like a giant dinosaur bone or something like that.
Just one.
Just one.
The cocker spaniel grabbed the dinosaur
But-
bone and is.
Heading into this project, we had the anticipation that there's not gonna be. Made the assumption that there's not gonna be any significant findings because the majority of the property is fill area. So, you know, it's dirt that's been turned over and turned over and turned over and, you know, we don't know though where that dirt came from, so that is the possibility when the walks were originally constructed, that the Army Corps pulled that dirt from some unknown area.
Right.
So that's a possibility.
Yeah, it helps establish the history of the area as well, you know,
Yeah.
just updating every couple of
Absolutely.
decades, whatnot. So.
More knowledge for the board to continue moving forward with.
Great, that's great. Another thing that I just want to know, I just want to say thank you to the Cascade Lux Elementary School PTO, to Mayor Kathy Fallon, and to everyone that came out to our buddies yesterday. We were able to raise a couple $100 for the PTO
What was her
yesterday.
final record, man? She was whooping up on people. She just like,
Kicking butt.
she got into a zone. It was crazy, because I played her when she started and she wasn't that good, and by the end of it, she was slaying people.
There were 30 challengers to Kathy, she won 26.
Great.
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun.
So I just want to say thanks to everyone that came out, it was super fun, it was, yeah, it was great.
You're gonna need a
And-
bigger building.
And yeah, and it's great because that money is gonna go back to the PTO, which is awesome, and they definitely will put it to good use. So appreciate it to everyone that came out, and yeah, we'll have to do it again. We'll have to have Kathy play a different character, so we're gonna have a chance this time. But yeah, other than that, I'm just looking forward to a lot of these things that we have coming up. Obviously, we have the meeting on next Wednesday in Salem, but also getting this report updated with alcohol and making sure that's complete. And then to your point, like, let's figure out what we're gonna do with that money that we have to spend in June. So I think that that's something that definitely needs to be on our radar for sure. That's it. Thank you all.
Yeah, it was a great event last night. Other than that, just excited to see everybody get trained and enjoying it and finding out, you know, this is a lot more complicated than it looks. You know, a lot of things going on in the port, you don't really realize, you know, the diversity of things that different other ports do and, you know, ways that they make their revenue and the things that they're doing in their communities. It's always great. I'm looking forward to couple meetings coming up here. We're doing some training at the end of the month with the Oregon Public Ports Ports Association, so we're gonna. Never gone to one of those before, that should be interesting, although when we go to PNWA in DC, it's, along the Oregon ports are there, so we'll probably see a lot of people we know, and that'll be interesting. We always need to see, once again, the way other ports operate and, the different things that they do, and boy, you got a wealth of knowledge out there, things that, you know, they've made mistakes that we can probably avoid if we talk to them, and kind of a wealth of knowledge, a lot of experience there, so we'll be looking forward to that, and, then we have, PNWA, Pacific Northwest Waterways Association Annual, Convention in Vancouver, coming up, in October, so
You on that one.
that'll be exciting, so. Anyway, exciting to see what we're doing as, you know, we're figuring out, where we're headed and the actual actionable plans we can do to make things happen in the community.
Did you say the PPWA?
PNWA.
PNWA.
Yeah, okay,
Pacific Northwest Waterways Association.
got it.
Yeah, excited to, you know, see what we're gonna do here. That's all I have.
Yeah, I will be joining you on some of those events. I've got this Dominion County Chamber of Commerce meeting coming up. This week, just a luncheon for government affairs. I guess I'm attending a journal on Thursday. So that should be interesting. I guess one thing I didn't realize as a port commissioner, how much vacation days we actually have to use personally, so more of just, public knowledge that it's not just a time sacrifice for after hours meetings, but we have to use personal time too.
Right.
Like vacation days, so people don't realize what a sacrifice it is. So appreciate every one of you for doing that as well. That PNWA training, I'll be attending at least half of it with you. I have family in town and obligations, so I'll be missing half, unfortunately. And then another exciting thing coming up that, since I'm on the museum board now, we have that masquerade fall fundraiser on the Stern Wheeler on October 14th, which is super exciting. Buy your tickets. There's gonna be dinner and live music, and it's gonna be out on the boat at night. And we're all gonna be dressed up wearing masquerade masks, so it should be super cool.
What is the date again?
October 14th.
Is that now an auction as well, or no?
There is an auction, and we do need people to sign up to donate some stuff to auction off for the fundraiser, so I'm out trying to canvas. I got Aniche to commit something for the auction. I was gonna ask it to, but I don't know what on earth they would be able to donate to auction off.
Funds.
A drone system, anyone?
I'll reach out to Landmass and Frame and some of our tenants and see if we can be helpful in that.
That would be great, thank you. Yeah, and I have some papers, that they would just need to fill out for the auction, I can send over to you. Other than that, I think that's about it. I don't really have a lot else. Oh, I know we might cover it in the manager report, but just curious about any more Flat 6 updates. Okay, cool, I'll wait till your report then.
So
I guess.
I have one thing that I forgot to mention after, SEAO training. I sent this to Jeremiah, we were talking about the, Oregon Infrastructure Summit.
Yes.
Is going on at Corvallis at the same time, so the reception starts the 27th at 5. And then the summit is actually on the 28th. So I'm thinking about.
I did not reach out to any commissioners about this particular one. You talked about it in-house quite a bit and awesome, we needed that up. We talked about it quite a bit, and just based on your previous comment, how much we are running you guys right now and making use personal time. This looked like one of the ones would potentially have to miss, reluctantly so. Anytime business organizations involved in putting on a conference, it's one we want to attend. Everybody knows we just got $500,000 from the Stern Wheeler, and they love to partner with ports. So anytime they're involved, and you can get in front of them, you want to. I have it on here as an important date with nobody attending. Pam did bring up that there's potential that she could make those dates work for her, at least the last half of that.
Yeah, I'm talking with my work where, so. I don't know if it's okay to say this, but they are silver, what is it called? Sponsor, thank you. And so I think I may be going with my company. And double duty.
Perfect.
Yeah, we'll see if that works, but it's only a 45-minute drive, so I'm thinking about doing that. I would love it if somebody would join me if they have the time.
Yeah, anybody's interested in joining, if I have a commission that's going, I would probably find a staff person to attend with you as well.
Great.
If they can't be me, and this, unfortunately, I'm with Rob that day and then going to the public works the next day.
I might be doing double duty. I might have to set up we're doing exhibits and stuff like that too, so I might have to.
Depending on Brittany's schedule, it would be Brittany that I would most likely want to send first.
Great.
Have you seen this one?
Which date is this?
It's right here, 27th to the 28th.
You're retired.
Please join
Oh,
me.
Brad. We're retired.
Brad, Brad with me at Oregon Public Works Association, it stack them all up, it's a really, I promise it mellows out, in the spring, a couple pop up and we go to some and not others, but it's this time every year,
This is
October.
evidence, talking infrastructure.
This is just so many events and so little time.
I know.
But now that I have more time, it's trying to decide which one.
We're being retired.
Yeah, exactly.
And
I'm like,
I
so
wasn't
much.
keeping it day by day with my dog right now, I would probably sign up for more, but.
And in your
that's gonna be
second,
anyway.
and in your second and third and fourth years after you attend these, there'll be times where you're like, man, I'm good on that one. I got what I needed to get from it, or yes, I really want to go find that person I met last year and reconnect with them. Like the reasons that you go changed right now, it's whatever you guys are willing to tolerate, to be honest with you, like just keep throwing it at you, you just keep saying yes. So I'm just gonna keep sending you. I mean, honestly, like I'm waiting for you guys to say, no, I can't do that. And once you say, no, I can't do that, then good, we'll start pulling back. But right now where you're still eager and excited and sponges and everything's still fun, like let's utilize it and run
It's
with it.
one of those things like, yeah, enough, oh, you know, here, oh, here, and pretty soon you're like, ah.
Mm-mm.
My grandma used to feed me.
I need to learn to double.
Yeah. All righty, moving on to the general manager report.
Very good. Can you pull up that map I was talking about? Sean Sabowski, she has, what's it called? Kailea coffee stand.
Yeah.
So she has asked if she could put that on court property for a couple of weeks to test the idea of being down there. There's a permit process that we go to anytime somebody wants to vend, but really what we've had for vendors is 2 to 3 days or a single day during a big event, not actually setting up on property. And the permit to vend is really cheap because we've never had anybody like take us up on any longer than a couple of days. So it's about $100 is what it, and I don't have it, I think it's $100 for a vendor permit. Is that right? Yeah, Janetta left right now, that'd be helpful. To have a vendor permit, she's asking if you could go there for a couple of weeks this month to test it out and see. I mean, it's possible that the word won't get out that she's down there because she's not on the main drag. I mean, I assume she's gonna sell some poor people some coffee. She's gonna sell some other folks that come down in there, but she's not gonna be on that main drag. So she's asking if she could test it out for a couple of weeks, and if it's successful, then next month pay that $100 fee and actually set up camp. The spot is gonna be. Right, this is right where you come into the four-way, no, it's not, it's this, right here where you come into the four-way. There's this little spot right here that we have no parking, there's access to water and electricity right here. This also probably gives us the best spot for people A to see her as soon as they come in the park and B not gum up traffic right there. So that's where we suggested we post up, and it could maybe even be in these two spots right here. But generally right there to test it out for a couple weeks. I don't know what everyone's thought is about having a permanent stand in there, and she's not asking for a permanent stand, right? But I think that if she saw a great deal of success. I think, yeah, I think we should.
We have to talk about the idea of whether it's food carts or other types of portables, so I think, it'd be great to have somebody test it out for us.
And I think that was sort of my thoughts on it. It opens up so many different conversations that we can have, and how many do we want, and when do we want them, and how long do they stay, and what should we really be charging somebody? If we're charging somebody $100 for a day, does that really make sense to be charging somebody $100 for a month? On the 4th of July, $100 for the day makes perfect sense, because they're gonna be there for one day and they're gonna kill it. So all those things for us to work through, but yeah, maybe we let Shauna come down with her cart for a couple weeks and see how that works. But kind of wanted to get your guys' feedback on it before I did that.
I love the idea of having, like a food cart pod somewhere down at the port property. I know there might be pushback from like Ixtapa and the cruise ship and stuff like that, but, other businesses up in the city.
I think that anything that sort of generates excitement within Cascade Locks, I think is good for everyone. I don't know that.
But even like it seems
Well, I see
like
what you're saying,
it
sure,
would
but-
be cool in the summer, cause it's so busy
Yeah,
down
I
there.
think it kind of caters to the people walking around during the fall season, holidays, taking photos on the island. It'd be nice to have a cup of coffee in the morning, walking around.
Yeah, pumping a lot.
Yeah, I think it's fine to have it for a couple of weeks, just to open up like kind of a testing period and open more discussions about what the potential is for future ideas.
When would it start?
I
ASAP?
Yeah, ASAP. ASAP, I don't know for sure. Request kind of came to me a little bit late. But yeah, ASAP. I mean, I think she's gonna want to, what's that?
2 week, and that's it?
2 weeks, 2 weeks for 10, she's gonna pay $100 going into October. But I think she'll know whether it's worth it over those 2 weeks. Whether or not it's worth it.
So we're willing to, if she likes it, we're willing to allow her more.
Yeah, I mean, generally, we don't have a policy, or no, we don't have anything against it.
Revisit the $100.
We potentially, yeah.
Like, I think, like, food carts in Portland pay.
We just have never really had anyone, like, when a cart comes, they're coming for a specific event, they're gonna be there for that event, and they're taking off. And she's saying, well, what if I'm just down there? So it opens up a whole bunch of conversations. I don't think I get this solved, not to charge her $100 for next month if she decides it's a success.
I would just not
but-
guarantee her that it's gonna be $100 going forward.
Correct.
Like 2 weeks we'll try it and that's it, but these are not gonna be our rates, cause it's not a typical thing for us.
Yep, and we will need to go back and rewrite those.
What about, would she take care of all the trash? Would she take care of any, like, is she gonna park on the grass?
She won't park on the grass, she'll park there in the stripes or in those 2 parking spots. I'll take a better look at it. I generally think that the garbage and those types of things are gonna end up in port garbage. I imagine most people will either take their drink and drive away, or take their drink and go for a walk. And likely that's gonna end up in port.
Considering she was on one of last year for several months, she's shown what it can be already. So I think it's great to test out the opportunity and see what it turns out to be.
I mean, beyond just like the people that would be purchasing, like she would have a lot of garbage as well. So I guess I would just be curious.
Okay, I'll talk about that. Make sure that it ends up going with her every day and not into our garbage cans.
Yeah, and then, people are gonna drop a napkin here and there's gonna go everywhere and it's like, who's gonna get that up?
That would be us. That would be our maintenance guys. If it's not right around the main area.
We need more than $100
Yeah,
after a month.
yeah.
Yeah, it's a totally new concept for somebody to say, I will take you up on that vendor fee for an entire month, right? So,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, I think so.
Cool. Yeah, we'll just, we'll see how it goes, and we'll have a report to bring back to you guys, and we'll start working through what it looks like in the future. We've been meeting for the last, I want to say 2 years, but it might be 1.5 years with the 4 treaty tribes. Which is in and of itself, a pretty amazing accomplishment to get all 4 treaty tribes together, having conversations. It can be difficult to find time and space to meet with one individually or 2 together, to get all 4 of them to come together and to speak with their leadership was something we're actually fairly proud of. And certainly have enjoyed good conversations with them. Tribal leaderships, attorneys, everything works through the attorneys with the tribes. Tribes have a request, they have a comment, they have something they want to talk about, they let their attorneys know, their attorneys speak to our attorneys, And that's just how the process moves forward with basically two independent, nations really. And so their tribal leadership has reached out and said, hey, we would like to put together another meeting, probably in November or December. Some of the topics that they would like to discuss are how well things have been going at the bridge. It sounds like we've been doing better up there with their experience and showing their tribal ID cards, so that was exciting. Other things that we've talked about previously, they want to revisit. One of those things was putting up 4 flagpoles in Marine Park around the Sacagawea Circle and having flags for each one of the tribes. They want to have some discussions about the dock that's coming in. And I think we will be listening and receptive to that. It's really a conversation that they'll have mostly with ACL. Once they go to their permitting process, part of that is going to be with the Army Corps of Engineers reaching out to the tribes. But we definitely want to listen to what their thoughts and concerns are on it as a good partner. We've also discussed potentially having a Treaty Tribes Day in Cascade Locks, in which they can bring food cards, native food cards. They can do some of their tribal worships and maybe do some fishing, where they show us how to fish and use the nets and do that sort of stuff. So it's been this gap that we've been trying to breach for a while with how can we be a better partner with the native population. And so they reached out asking for that. I will at some point come back in time with a meeting date for you guys for that. And but I wanted to let you know that they reached out to us.
I'm super interested in that for sure.
It's one of the most rewarding things to be a part of. Is I don't know that there is in strengthening that relationship. They've been a quiet voice for a long time, and so for us to be able to get in front of all 4 of them is a unique and great opportunity. And Medlock update. So we're doing it. We are using a broker to market Flex 6. It happened. You guys requested it. This is how long it takes things to get going sometimes in the public arena, but she will be putting up signs down in the area. I think the first part of next week, she is putting it up on LoopNet and 5 or 6 other different websites. Of course, as soon as I hired a broker, I had somebody come in interested in 40,000 square feet. We sent him to Ann. Cool news about that is he used to be a commissioner with the Port of Hood River, so he knew her really, really well. So that made me excited. That's a good connection for them to make. We will probably include a Medenbach update in every meeting going forward, whether she's had any success, whether she's heard from anybody. What I hope is that the next time we see Ann Medenbach 2 weeks from today, that she has somebody who's interested in the property. But regardless, we'll get an update on what Flex 6 is and how it's moving. I received a call today from Verizon, who is interested in putting a cell tower out in the business park. We currently have a US cellular cell tower out there. It sits next to, if you're down where the Herman Creek fishing is and you look, it's where the fire was, you can look up and see it. It's next to the quarry.
Yeah.
She asked if there was any place down there that we were sort of interested in, and I said, we would want to be space that's not leasable for other reasons, so maybe down the emergency access road. So I'm gonna map out a couple places now that are in spots that we just don't really use, and see if those would work for, and then we'll bring that back to you guys.
Is that revenue?
Yeah, what do we get from US Cellular?
We got 11.5 last year.
Yeah, we had $11,500 for that tower to sit there from US Cellular. And I think that's actually a little on the low side.
Yeah, I'm waiting for them to upgrade to 5G, so.
Yeah.
Then it'll be 12.
And they're just trying to, Verizon's just trying, I talked today, they're just trying to improve their coverage along the I-84 corridor, so. More to come on that. We will be doing a bridge inspection. So every 2 years, ODOT does a bridge inspection that is paid for by ODOT. So they were talking about the end of this month, but it doesn't look like it's going to come together until October. So I will meet with them and they will go out and crawl over the bridge and then they will come back with a report for us. Fingers crossed, everything's great with the bridge and we'll move on. If they run into anything that needs our attention, it will land squarely back in front of you guys and we'll see where we go forward from there. We never anticipate anything going in and we'll hope for the best. Also touch base with ODOT. I told you guys previously about getting on the schedule for them to paint the on-ramp for the bridge. I just don't have them on the calendar yet. They said, yes, we're gonna do it. I said, do we have a date yet? They said, not yet. So we'll just keep you guys updated, but they know it's on their to-do list, and when I have a date, we'll announce it to the public. Try it if I can get them to do it early in the morning or late at night, but that'll be up to them.
5 PM on a Friday.
What's that? Right, exactly. You may not know this, but one of the perks of working for the Port of Cascade Locks is that your birthday is a paid holiday. And Carrie Ann is taking tomorrow off for her birthday, so happy birthday. Oh, Friday. I just tomorrow off Friday. All right, I apologize, Friday. I knew that's exactly what it was. I'm used to the Thursday people, 100%. So, happy birthday.
Tomorrow and Friday.
Right. I just gave you an extra holiday. Thanks. That's all I got.
Happy birthday.
Yeah.
So you're, 20 what?
First.
Well done.
Did it go past?
21 now? You're legal?
21st.
Vanilla or chocolate?
Sorry. So I see that we have it for lease, we're not looking to sell like 6.
This commission, yeah, has not made any sort of decision about.
Okay, I just was confirming that.
I don't know that I won't have people who talk and then they don't want to come talk to you, but as of now, it is not for sale.
Thank you.
So we're going to recess this meeting for an executive session under ORS 192.6602E, real property negotiations. So we'll take about a 5-minute recess, then we'll come back for that.
Oh.
Table that.
Anybody in the waiting room?
About to do all circle. No.
Okay.
Need some WD-40.
Each year's. Those and furniture are like the bane of
Hey, these are
existence.
way better than those chairs over there.
That's true.
Oh, that's so true.
You triggered something.
Sorry, Jen.
Here. Yeah.
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 I think it didn't say the word.
Okay.
Recording in.
We are.
Pardon?
The syncing with the mic kind of
Delayed.
doesn't, delays it.
Yeah.
Or delays, and it doesn't catch the announcement.
But we are recording.
We are recording, so we're ready to go.
We are ready to go.
Excellent. Well, we're back.
I have in front of you a lease agreement for Lestro Trucking. It's a lease extension for 1 year. In front of you, it lays out the agreements. And I would be looking for a motion to have that lease approved and signed by the president.
I'll make a motion to re-extend the lease for Lex truck tenant for 1 year to the date of July 22nd, 2024.
One second.
Okay, got a motion and a second to do this lease extension with Let's Truck for another year. No more, any discussion? If not, then all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Passed unanimously. Well, if there's nothing else come before the commission, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I second my motion.
I motion to adjourn.
All those in favor? Okay, we're adjourned. Thanks for visiting. We'll see you again soon.